We move on. Let's talk about some other baseball storylines. Let's go to the Dodgers. We'll talk about this situation because this is a very, very different spring training at Camelback Ranch with the Dodgers. You know, they cleared over $101 million in budget space by letting guys go. They're going to get draft pick compensation by virtue of losing some of the players that they've lost. They got a lot of new faces on that roster. And the big question, as many new guys as they're bringing in, and the fact that they've got all these young guys, what kind of Dodger team is this going to be? J.D. Martinez comes from the Red Sox, and this is an established designated hitter and a strong personality in the clubhouse. They just signed David Peralta, who I think was a really steady guy. Not a star, but steady. He's a career 281 hitter, and he can DH and he can play left field. And Martinez can DH and he can play first base if need be. You know, and then they traded for Miguel Rojas. He can play short, can play second, can play some third, has dabbled in the outfield. He was with the Miami Marlins. Jason Hayward, vested veteran, longtime Chicago Cubs, St. Louis Cardinal, heady veteran guy. Now, they hope he doesn't hit 220, but this guy has produced a large spot in different spots that he's played. Maybe they steal one. I mean, we've talked about the Dodgers being a little bit thin at the back of the rotation. Well, Noah Syndergaard, the ex-Met legend, he's 2 years removed from surgery, and he pitched pretty well last year, a chunk of it with the Angels, and then, of course, he got traded to Philadelphia right at the very end. If he can be close to what he used to be with the New York Mets, even if he's not hitting 99 miles an hour, boy, that's the guy you give the ball to as your third or fourth starter. And they just re-signed Jimmy Nelson, who was a former frontline starter with the Milwaukee Brewers. He had tremendous statistics in Milwaukee, and then he had shoulder surgery and then back surgery. He's hardly pitched for 2 years, but he's pitched himself back into the mix here because it looks like after multiple surgeries that Jimmy Nelson is finally healthy. And then so you got all those veterans coming in the front door, and we've talked extensively about the shipment that's coming from Oklahoma City, the Miguel Vargases of the world, and Gavin Lux, who's going to be their starting shortstop, and James Outland, who they think is going to be their starting center fielder. And they got 3 young pitchers, all who got cups of coffee at the end of last season and pitched okay, led by Ryan Pepio. It's fascinating. It's going to be a very, very different Dodger roster, but it's interesting how they're renting all these guys. And they're doing it this way because a year from today, we might be talking about Shohei Ohtani showtime at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a really good roster. I mean, these guys they bring in, I mean, it's not like the Dodgers of the last few years, but this is still a very, very competitive team. You know, they've got a lot of other superstars, you know, Mookie Betts, and we can go down the list of all these other great players. I forgot that they signed Syndergaard. I mean, that's a nice pickup. And Jimmy Nelson used to be a very, very solid starter. So these guys, and they can make it work. Yeah, Hayward's probably not going to hit. I'm guessing he's going to be like the fourth outfielder. But you put J.D. Martinez in as a DH, you know, Dave Roberts has got something to work with.
Yeah, they lose a little bit of fire in Justin Turner. He had a lousy start last year, but he hit .317 after a first 6 weeks lousy start. So you lose that little bit of leadership and obviously that productivity, and he was a rock solid everyday third baseman. So there are going to be some different people in the infield for sure. And I know Dodger fan will yell, well, Lee, how are they replacing Cody Bellinger? And my response is, are you upset about replacing a guy hitting 206 over the last 3 years who was making crazy money? Let's try somebody else because Bellinger sure looks like a lost soul out there to me. So tell you, the Camelback Ranch is going to be fun to observe this thing through the months of March, getting to opening day right around April to see how all these one-year rentals work out. And I agree with you. That's a smart statement. I think Syndergaard could be the wild card in this whole thing. Mm-hmm. I wonder how they're going to like it at Dodger Stadium chasing the first place Padres.
Yeah, this is where the whole thing is flipped on its ear. So, you know, this is a time for the Padres to cash in. I mean, they've got all their ducks in a row. Dodgers taking a step back. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah, a year from today, we might be talking about Ohtani, Dodger Stadium. We'll see. Let's talk about the other team in Southern